Hey everyone. I hope everybody had a good winter break and either survived, dug out, didn't have busted pipes, heat stayed on, whatever. I know I've got friends of mine that have had busted pipes. One guy had his heat go out yesterday at like middle of the afternoon, and he was waiting to get HVAC guys over today to try and get things going again. But hopefully everybody made it through. Those of you in the northern climates are used to it. Those of us either halfway or down in the south are not. So every outing is an adventure when things get icy, it gets a little squirrely out there. This is Green Beret Life. I am Stu. Matt is nowhere to be found. He was going out of town over the weekend and was hoping to be back in time for the show, but with travel and weather and everything else, he was not able to make it. He may join in the middle of the show. It kind of just depends on what he gets done when he's able to get in and get everything situated. I don't know. I At this point, I'm not expecting him to be able to make it, but if he does, it'll be a pleasant surprise. Um, as far as that's concerned, or I guess now that that's been addressed, that I'm flying solo, so it'll be the normal procedure we have around here is trying to make it through to the end. Um, there's it's still all Minnesota all the time. Um, for those of you, well, I'm sure everybody knows by now, there was another shooting involving a protester slash agitator and the government, people up there. It first came out that it was ICE. Apparently, it's come out and I've seen where it wasn't ICE, it was CBP. But, you know, either way, that it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, someone lost their life. It was tragic. It's I kind of feel about this one the same way I did with Renee Good. When you go out there and you put yourself into the middle of these tense situations when these people have no idea who the particular person is that ICE is going after. This person that they're going after with this arrest warrant, with this action, could be a legitimate bad dude, and they, by blowing their rape whistles, by getting in the middle to try and help unarrest the person, whatever else their training manuals say, they are upping the potential for bad things to happen just by orders of magnitude. And this, unfortunately, is sometimes the result of that. Um, this guy, apparently, Alex Pretti, was involved with an altercation with ICE just days before this, where he supposedly said he was in fear for his life and he was treated for symptoms that were aligned with a broken rib. So he, apparently was in an altercation just days before with ICE, where got a broken rib, you're probably taken to the ground, or claiming you have a broken rib or being treated for a broken rib, you're probably taken to the ground and, told people he was in fear for his life. So his response to that is to go back out and do the exact same thing, but this time do it armed. I don't understand that mindset. It just, if I don't get it. I mean, I don't know what the plan was for him having the gun on him. Um, I don't know what Minnesota's laws are for attending protests and stuff like that armed. I know whenever I lived in North Carolina, they had concealed carry and everything, but written into the law, you could not carry. I think they had it. They had parades. They had, obviously, I think, polling places. and something else like that. But there were certain things carved out. Um, it just, hey Troy, how are you? Thanks for joining. Um, and it adds to an already chaotic situation when ICE is not just dealing with the person they're going out to apprehend. They're having to deal with, people trying to block them with cars, people blowing whistles, getting in their face, and just it takes a bad situation and just makes it that much more uh, dangerous. But here's the story I was just talking about with this Alex guy. It says, new details have emerged showing Alex Pretti, the Minneapolis man shot and killed by Border Patrol over the weekend, was involved in a violent confrontation with federal officers just a week earlier. The earlier incident unfolded after Pretti allegedly stopped his vehicle when he saw Immigration and Customs chasing an illegal alien on foot. According to the source, Pretti began shouting, blowing the whistle, and attempting to interfere with the arrest. He was then tackled by 5 agents and engaged in what was described as a violent scuffle, during which he allegedly broke his ribs. Pretti, an ICU nurse, reportedly believed he was going to die during the encounter. So this believing he was going to die and already thinking he broke ribs, cracked ribs, whatever in this, his response is to go right back out there, days later and do the exact same thing, except this time do it armed. Um, I the leadership in Minneapolis has also exacerbated this and fed the flames on this with their rhetoric, with what they're telling their constituents, what they're just blatantly encouraging them to do. It's putting in place all of the pieces for something of this sort to happen. And I hate to say it, but I really think that the people in charge or the people pushing this, whether it be the leadership in Minnesota, whether it be these the people behind all these organized protests, I think this is really what they want and what they wanted, because now it puts an absolute ton of pressure on Trump and on ICE, just because of the circumstances, just because of the fact that this happened. It puts just an inordinate amount of pressure on Trump and ICE to cease what they're doing. And I really think that the people that have pushed all of this to the point that's what they wanted. They wanted someone to be shot, they wanted someone to be killed, and they wanted it to be done in such a manner that they could blame every bit of it on, ICE and the Trump administration. I've seen very short clips of this incident, and from what I've seen and what I've read, there was a woman involved that was out in the street in ICE's face. I think, from what I read, whatever, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, if you've seen this and are a little more familiar with the particulars than I am, but she was, actively, putting hands on agents and getting in faces and all this. And she was pushed back on more than one occasion and continued to come out and was pushed and fell. And then this guy comes out to White Knight, and what happened. As far as the mechanics and the sequence of what happened, that's going to be hard to defend with the way things were going. But all the videos I've seen have been, there's not been audio, but other ones have said that there was, the people all around blowing their whistles, and nobody could hear anything. It was just, again, making an already hazardous situation even more difficult and more chaotic. And this is the result of that. But I think this has some more where, yeah, CBP had gotten information. They're saying that basically what I said, this changes a lot, including his intention to carry a gun onto another confrontation with federal law enforcement. Lawful concealed carry holders do their best to walk away from a fight, not walk into one. And those of you that carry know this is an absolute fact statement. Just by virtue of you having the gun on you, you do everything you can to avoid an altercation. You swallow your pride, you apologize for the other person bumping into you. You do everything you can to remove yourself from that situation, because if an altercation does start, it has a very, very high chance of going horribly, horribly wrong. And this is right here. He didn't just get involved on Saturday. He had a history of confrontation, of inserting himself into these situations, which is exactly it. He didn't go out to protest. He didn't go out to hold a sign. He didn't go out to sing a song. He went out there to get into the middle, to interfere, and to cause, issues, to get physical with ICE and to get physical with the law enforcement officers. And right here, CNN tries to make this, like they were tracking him to put him down. Federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information about protesters and agitators in Minneapolis, sources told CNN. They had documented details about Alex Pretti before he was shot to death on Saturday. Now, as dire and as grim and as just unbelievable as that, they're taking notes on him. They're tracking him. They've got his details. And when he showed up again, they shot him because of reasons. Well, no. When our law enforcement encounter a violent agitator, which he was, who is breaking the law, obstructing law enforcement, or assaulting them, which he was, talking about the first incident, our law enforcement makes records to advance prosecution. This is not groundbreaking. It's standard protocol. So CNN's trying to take something that is standard protocol. Hey, we're gathering information on these people that are interfering with our operations, and trying to make it sound like they were putting together some sort of a hit list to go around and snuff out these pesky agitators whenever they get a chance. And it's CNN, so I'm not really surprised, but that's how they do things. And we know that, which is why we get CNN reports second and third hand. We don't watch them ourselves because we know better. Now, back last week on the show, one of the things we discussed, or one of the things we saw, were these, again, protesters, and I'm using air quotes on that basically charged into this church and hijacked the services. And we had our favorite our favorite person, Don Lemon, in there, and this federal judge came out and refused the arrest warrant for Don Lemon. And it comes to find out, wouldn't you know, this judge is linked to a pro-illegal immigration group. We get down here, Patrick Schiltz, the chief judge of the U.S. District for the U.S. District Court for Minnesota, was listed in 2019 as both a donor and volunteer for the Immigrant Law Center in Minnesota. They openly provide free legal representation and advocacy for illegal immigrants and regularly challenge federal immigration enforcement efforts. Now, he has drawn this attention for some high profile decisions, including right now, he's currently threatening to hold ICE Director Todd Lyons in contempt of court and has ordered him to appear in federal court later this week. And it's, I again, not a judge, not an attorney, not a whatever, but where does this judicial employee get the wherewithal to order an employee of the executive branch of law enforcement to appear in front of him and explain to him anything that has to do with him doing his job and carrying out his duties? I don't understand how that is a thing. I mean, I guess if there's been a lawsuit filed and something, but just threatening to hold him in contempt of court for what? It makes no sense. But yeah, right here, Schiltz is the same judge who declined to approve arrest warrants for Lemon and several other protesters accused of storming City's church in St. Paul, Minnesota earlier this month. A federal magistrate judge, however, initially declined to find probable cause to issue arrest warrants. So apparently, we can roll up into a mosque, fire up the grill, throw some pork chops on there, some bacon cheeseburgers, whatever, and we're not interfering with anything. We're not interfering with their freedom of religion or interfering with their civil rights if we do something like that. So apparently we've got, some case law here on our side that we can, fire up the barbecue joint across the street from the mosque and kind of direct the fans to waft the sweet scent that direction. But this is something that it's as Matt says, you there needs to be something that's able to be done. The fact that an appointed judge, to get them removed, requires the exact same process as it does to remove the president of the United States. There needs to be I don't really know if I want to say a lower bar, but there needs to be a more reasonable redress for when someone has an obvious conflict of interest, is not recusing themselves, and is using their public appointment, their public office for their own benefit, for their own, to further their own ideology, and not to keep things, the way they should be, following the law. But this is what we get with, these judges that are put in place, and there really isn't a balance. There just isn't really a balance for them. They once they get in there, it's literally literally an act of Congress for them to be removed. Now, one of the things, and this is frustrating to me, Kash Patel has come out and says that the FBI has found groups funding protests in Minneapolis. It's not happening organically. I'm glad they found this out, but this has been going on through Black Lives Matter. This has been going on through, what was the one that they did in the one where they were all camping out in the park outside of Wall Street. It was Wall Street something, I can't remember. But none of these are organic. They're all funded by activist groups. They're all funded by other entities, whether it be, our own money through USAID that comes back around to to bite us. But the FBI is acting like they've found the Holy Grail. It's like, oh wait, we've found out that this is being funded by someone else. No kidding. We've known this for 15 years, 18 years. We've known there are people behind the money that comes in here. What was I forget the actual event, but there was the U-Haul truck showing up and handing out gas masks or handing out respirators, or the pallets of bricks that were showing up at these quote unquote protests. We've known this. How hard is it to get the number on that U-Haul truck? Trace it back. Who rented it? When? Who paid for it? You find the pallets of bricks. Where did these come from? Who paid for it? How did they get here? It's not rocket surgery. And this is, FBI, and they've not been able to do anything to point. I mean, nothing that I've seen. I've not seen any cases that have come up where they're saying, hey, this is who did this. We tracked them this way. These are the charges against them. It doesn't happen. They'll talk about it. Well, somebody's doing this. Somebody's funding it. This money's coming from somewhere. And okay, and well, no, we're just telling you it's coming from somewhere. It's people are doing it, but we're just not going to look into it anymore. We're going to stop where we are. But with what's going on though in Minneapolis, it's going to be interesting. The ICE, I guess, agent in charge, whatever, was it not Bowman? It might be his name, but he's apparently being pulled out of Minneapolis, and Tom Homan is going up there. The last I saw, there was Trump had apparently had a meeting with, or had a call with Waltz and the governor of Minneapolis, Frey, and at least according to Trump, there was talk of them kind of being on the same page. Tom Homan's up there now. We're going to see what happens. See if that was just Minnesota talking out of their ass or not, or if they're actually going to participate. Because we talked about it, I think, last week. There are ICE operations taking place all over the country. It's not just Minneapolis. But the difference is the other areas are, if not participating, they're not actively calling for the violent disruption and impeding of operations that is going on in Minneapolis. It's just the fact that they will not honor the ICE detainers is forcing ICE to operate in the streets, which they then complain about. Whenever a local municipality, or say the Minneapolis police department, they get an illegal alien into custody, ICE will file a detainer and say, hold this guy, he's an illegal, we have a warrant for him, we're going to come get him. The local PD will be like, nah, we're good, and they release him into the public. So instead of ICE being able to come to a secure facility and take custody of this individual in a secure, controlled environment, the local police department, the local government decides, no, we're gonna push it. We're gonna let him out into the city, and then you get to deal with him there. So by doing that, they're feeding into that and causing more and more of these efforts to detain these individuals to be taking place in the public, when it could be very safely, quickly, and easily done when the individual's in custody at that time. Oh yeah, Troy, we're talking about the funding and where that's coming from. That's a very good point, Troy. the professionally printed signs that appear within hours of the latest thing. And that's exactly true. You'll see some of them, there'll be some handmade signs, there'll be whatever, but you will see that there is a definite theme, a definite style of sign that is going around that is being supplied by someone somewhere to all of these protesters, agitators, rioters. I guess it depends on the time of day and what activity they're engaged in. But yeah, absolutely, you will absolutely see professional signage out there for these people, and then they're like, oh well, nothing's paid, nothing's done. But you got the same people going from state to state to state on these, because I believe the lady that was the kind of the head in charge of the group that went into that church, she is part of an activist organization, and she has been at multiple different areas, locations, and everything else. So if she's not being paid to do that, how is she doing it? If someone's not, that's her job. Or at least if it's not her full time job, it's at least a very substantial side hustle, and it's just insane. What these people do, what they're allowed to do, and then they'll just say, "Oh no, nothing to see here. No organization, no payment," and you're just supposed to shut up, take it, eat shit, and keep moving. And it's crazy. Um, I mean, that's what I've been tracking on Minneapolis this week. I did see where somebody had come out and said that all of these deaths that have happened are on Nick Shirley's hands, because he's the one that reported the fraud that caused this surge. So we're not going to blame the illegal immigrant criminals that ICE is there to detain. We're not going to blame the Somalis that were engaged in millions to billions of dollars in fraud. We're not going to blame the agitators that are out there getting physical with these ICE agents, trashing hotels that they think that they're staying in. None of that is to blame. It's all Nick Shirley, because he reported a story. Yeah, freedom, exactly. Blame the Minnesota leadership for these deaths. And we talked about that, about the rhetoric that they've been using since day one. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing to me how they can, on one hand, say it's Trump's rhetoric that causes everything, and then in the very next press conference, they're talking about the Gestapo and the Nazis and the jackboot thugs, and just there's zero self-reflection, zero accountability, and that's the way they live their life. It's like they're like a freaking Etch-a-Sketch. The one about need to dial down the rhetoric, you shake the Etch-a-Sketch, send them back out there, and they're parroting Nazi, jackboot thug. They're Etch-a-Sketches, man. They have zero accountability from one instance to the next. But that's Minneapolis in a nutshell of what's going on this week. On the 2A front, I've got two stories here. One of them is very concerning. And we'll drill down into it, because I read through the whole thing, and it's if this case is allowed to stand, it's very, very concerning. So what we have here, a Maryland jury rules Walmart is liable for selling a shotgun used in employee suicide. So this guy here worked at Walmart, and he bought a shotgun there and used it to take his own life. Now, this jury has ruled that Walmart's liable for it, and we're going to talk about that here, how that played out. So what happened is this guy, Mace, I think that's his last name, Jacob Mace. So his family brought this lawsuit. So what they did is they focused on Mace, on Jacob's communications with a coworker, in which he wrote about feeling broken and nothing helps. I just want it to end. Goodbye. He also wrote that he intended to slit wrists by a gun. This is what he's talking to a coworker. This coworker goes to her manager, Brendan Jones, about these concerns. So Jones, who was the assistant manager, said the police should be called. Returned to work, he spoke to Mace about the company's counseling services and asked him how he was doing. He told him that, we're worried about you, but Jacob Mace assured him that he was fine. So Jacob Mace confides into a coworker, hey, things are going bad. I have these feelings, I have this. This coworker goes and talks to her supervisors like, hey, I'm worried about him. This is what he said. The guy talks to him, tells him about counseling services, tells him that they're worried about him, ask him how he's doing. And he says that he's doing okay. He's good. He's fine. So neither Jones nor O'Shea, the manager or the coworker, were involved in selling the gun. The sale was made by a third individual who testified he had no idea of Mace's mental health struggles. Mace told McLaughlin the gun would be a present for his wife. The family argued that Jones should have alerted other store managers about the conversation between the coworker and himself. Moreover, the awareness of an employee like Jones was then attributed to the company as a whole. Now, this is my thing I was looking at. Employers have to straddle a difficult line between protecting an employee's privacy and addressing threats to employees and the public. In this case, Mace insisted he was doing fine and Jones had taken steps to confirm his status. Second, Mace lied to the Walmart employee. There was no reason why McLaughlin would refuse the sale. And right here, from the perspective of Jones, who was the manager, he had one employee who expressed concerns over another employee's mental health. He spoke to the second employee who assured him he was fine. Under these circumstances, Mace could have purchased the gun from any other store. It didn't have to be a Walmart. He could have gone anywhere and bought one. There's no psychiatric record. There's no anything to prevent him from buying it. They said this is a tragic case and it may be difficult to overturn on appeal, meaning this may stand. It says, I'm unsure of how far the store could have gone. Jones would have needed to tell employees not to sell Mace any sharp objects, guns, products capable of inducing overdose or harm, anything like that. And that could trigger a lawsuit back against Walmart and this manager. It's just they're trying to find someone to blame for this individual's actions. I mean, was he disturbed? Was he having a mental health issues? Possibly. But there's a limit to what a manager can do. I mean, in holding employee, information, confidential. I mean, they can't read his mind. He's taking, hearsay from an employee about Mace. He's like, okay, well, let me look into this. He goes and talks to this guy, offers him the counseling services, lets him know that they're concerned, is checking on him. How are you doing? He's like, no, man, I'm fine. I'm good. How that is Walmart's fault, I don't know, but it's just, it's another another tick in the box, another nail in the coffin to reduce and narrow the number of retailers selling firearms. You know, Walmart's one of the largest is I think the largest retailer in the country. I mean, they've already, geez, they haven't sold ARs in 20 years, 15 years. And it's just going to be one more thing that, you know, there's no personal accountability for this guy, Jacob Mace, for him, for his family, for his wife. Did none of them come to Walmart and say, "Hey, I'm real concerned about him. Can you, you know, just check on him, make sure he's doing okay. He's having some troubles." But they want it to be someone else's fault that this person, you know, took their life. It's tragic that it happened, but it's not Walmart's fault. It's not this manager's fault. I don't. It sounds more callous than it is, but you know, Jacob Mace is not Walmart's responsibility. Jacob Mace is not this manager supervisor's responsibility. He's an employee. You know, his family, his friends, those are the ones that are responsible isn't the right word because it doesn't, but they're the ones that are that bubble for him, that should be looking out for him. It's Walmart's job is not babysitting someone. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the manager did everything they should have done with offering services, with checking on him, letting him know that they were concerned, letting him know that they were there for him if they need him. You can't force somebody, or I mean, I guess you can if you have them committed, but you know, this Walmart manager can't force this individual to do anything. He can't force him to participate in counseling, to even tell him what's going on. But this Maryland jury has ruled Walmart is liable for selling this shotgun to the employee. And the other thing in Virginia that's coming up is, I don't know if you guys have been following Virginia. It is, oh my God. This new lady just got elected. What was her name? Abigail Spanberger. She came in and went full bore wide open with I think it's Virginia. They're trying to redistrict to where there is zero Republican representation in Virginia. I don't think I think it's for, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a couple of them I was reading about that are trying to do this. I believe it's on the federal level. They're trying to redistrict, gerrymander the districts so that there is not a single Republican majority district in Virginia for representation. And you know, if they're allowed to do that, that's going to be crazy. But they've drawn up an amendment to ban assault weapons and standard capacity magazines, which is a 30-round magazine. And it's designed to come down even harder on innocent gun owners. The amendment to the bill removes the clause to grandfather in pre-existing magazines with a capacity greater than 10 rounds. Violators of the law can be prosecuted as a Class 1 misdemeanor, and a convicted individual could be subject to a penalty of $2,500 and up to 12 months in prison. The original bill already moved to classify any semi-automatic centerfire rifle or pistol as an assault weapon to be banned. Virginia's new Democrat governor, Abigail Spanberger, has previously expressed a weakly worded defense of the Second Amendment. And I wouldn't trust her as far as I could freaking throw her. But, and I can tell you right now, if they're looking at doing this and they come in and you've got 5 magazines, they're going to want to charge you 5, each one of them 5 separate, 5 separate infractions of their law on this. But it's just, yep, removing the grandfather. So not only are they making you a criminal for owning something that was legal yesterday, now basically whatever you spent on those, your money, your property, now has to be destroyed by decree of the government, or you're a criminal. So your property that was legal, has been owned legally for decades, they decide is now illegal, and all of your property and the money that you spent to purchase it is to be destroyed by decree of Virginia's government. So they're still out there, guys. We've made great headways in concealed carry and constitutional carry and that sort of thing, but Democrats don't stop. They do not stop. Republicans are hell, I don't even think there are speed bumps for Democrats when they're in office anymore. Well, I guess it does. I guess the Democrats are still getting their way. It's probably just at about a 60%, 70% pace than they do whenever they're in charge. Because as we've said on the show many times, we have the presidency, we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the Supreme Court, and the Republicans are just like, well, we just can't get anything done. The Democrats are being obstructionist. You have every lever of power in Washington, D.C., and you're still impotent. It's so supremely frustrating. And, you know, Matt and I both, we encourage to get out the vote. And it's hard because some of these guys, you have to hold your nose and vote for them, because no matter how worthless they are, the Democrat's going to be worse. And that's honestly the only thing that probably keeps a lot of these people in office, because they are not doing what they're sent there to do. They're not participating and facilitating Trump's agenda, which you know we all voted for, which the country by a large margin voted for. They're out there. They're being obstructionist. They're trying to, you know, make backroom deals with the Democrats, and it's disgusting. And it is. I legitimately think Democrats probably get their regular agenda at a 60 to 70% speed when Republicans are in charge, and they're full speed ahead whenever they're in charge. And like I've said before, I really do not think Republicans want to be in charge. I just don't, because they know that what their constituents want will not make them very popular in the DC circles that they want to be moving in, and cocktail parties, and you know, the New York Times interviews, the CNN interviews and guest spots. What their constituents want them to do will adversely affect what they want to do in Washington, D.C. for themselves. So whenever they do get elected, they drag their feet. They I would say feign impotence, but they're not feigning. They are impotent, just unable to do anything, can't get out of their own way to accomplish anything. But when the Democrats get in charge, they move the ball down the field. And it is so supremely frustrating that that just doesn't happen. Um, I just got a text from Matt. Yeah, he's not gonna be here, and um, he said he's apparently had a rough trip back. So I'll probably talk to him in a day or so after he catches up on his sleep and see how things went. But but yeah, just I it's hard because I would like to say, some people like to say, well, you get the government you deserve. But I think politics has become such a disgusting, it's a cesspool, and the good people that could do good in DC, could do good in the government, will not put themselves or their family through it, because it's, look at what Trump has gone through. I I don't know. I don't know how he does it if JD Vance runs again. I mean, it just has to take such a strong person. For the Democrats, it doesn't matter because the media is going to cover for them. Anything they do is going to be anything that is suspect that they do is going to be hand waved away. It's going to be because you're racist, or if it happens to be a female running and their past is brought up where you're a misogynist. If it was Biden, it was, I don't know, ageist, whatever. There's always an excuse. There's always a hand wave away for the Democrats, but any Republican that is in there, it is, a colonoscopy with a video camera to find anything. Doesn't have to be something that they actually did. Something we can allude to that they did. Well, they once knew someone, or they attended school with a person that did such and such. It doesn't matter. Whatever tenuous connection they can make, they'll make it and run with it. It's what they do. We had talked about California last week about the fraud there, and also the wealth tax that they're looking to implement. And believe me, my intention of bringing that up was not in any way, shape, or form to cry any tears or play any violins for the billionaires in California, because they are getting the exact government, the exact policies that they advocated for. My point was that if this goes into effect, it is going to have much further reaching ramifications than just, okay, this billionaire now only has, $17.3 billion instead of $18 billion. It's going to be much, much worse than that if it's implemented the way we discussed it last week. But the funny thing is, it's what was it, Margaret Thatcher? The thing about socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. And that's exactly what's happened. The California billionaire Democrat supporters having buyer's remorse as progressives push tax the rich measure. Oh, yep. The problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. California has endured one party rule for years, and that party is lurching mightily towards socialism and not trying to hide it. But a group that would be California progressives' prime target may now be regretting their blue votes in November. They're seeing the writing on the wall and are thinking it might be time to get out. But let's see, billionaires and other rich individuals reported to have a combined net worth of $500 billion are leaving California to avoid the state's punitive wealth tax. But see, this is what's supremely frustrating, is this is what they advocated for. I can guarantee you that any number of these people spent their own money to get these people elected that are passing this. And hell, they may have even campaigned for some of the stuff. But now that it's going to affect them, well, now they're going to move. And they're probably going to move to somewhere like Texas or Tennessee or somewhere like that. And then they're going to start the same thing over again. It's like a swarm of locusts. They swarm in the field, eat it, bear down to nothing, and, flutter off to the next field. That's what they're doing. There's Pirate Wire, which I guess is an outlet, spoke with 21 billionaires, most who are planning on leaving the state. The breadth of work experience among this group is impressive, from AI, defense, cryptography, blah, blah, blah. The combined worth of the companies the group owns is around 1.3 trillion, and they employ roughly 50,000 people. Yeah, they're saying if this tax actually passes, I think the technology industry kind of has to leave the state, because every person running a company will have to look at the math. They will think, well, obviously that can't happen because it will literally destroy the company. It's just, I almost wish it's like, no, I'm sorry, you can't leave. You voted for this. You have to stay. This is what you wanted. You can't vote to shit in the well and then leave to go to the next village. No, you get to stay and drink that shitty water. Water. Sorry. But yeah. And of course they're marketing this as it's going to be a one-time tax. It'll be a one-time tax. And then in 5 years, 7 years, when the state's running out of money again, oh, well, we need to, extenuating circumstances and too big to fail. Yeah, it'll happen again. It absolutely will. And, part of the reason California is needing to do this is they have a ton of fraud going through billions of dollars in a California hospice fraud. And what it looks like has happened is some of these gangs, being Russian or Armenian, have somehow gotten themselves in with doctors and things like that, to where there's, and I've read it, but I don't completely track it, but that hospice care in LA had increased 7-fold over the last 5 years. So somehow they're getting these corrupt doctors to sign off on this Medicaid fraud, and then these Russian and Armenian gangs are taking the money. Right here, they're corrupting doctors and defrauding the medical system by enrolling ineligible patients into hospice care and billing for services not rendered. At least 100,000 Medicare numbers had been handed over after being convinced by 100 bad doctors that they were dying. In Los Angeles County alone, organized crime allegedly milked more than $3.5 billion. So that's what's happening. More than 1 billion had been stolen through a massive Medicaid fraud scheme carried out by bad actors in Minnesota, alleging that some of the funds may have even made its way to the Somalian terrorist network Al Shabaab. But so Minneapolis did 1 billion, California 3.5. And we had talked about this before. If what we're seeing in Minnesota, California is going to be 2 to 3 times that easily, and that's what we're starting to find. Is in Minnesota, it was the Somali community engaged in it. Here, it seems to be Russian and Armenian gangs and mobs. And that's what's happening. Is they're taking people, getting their Medicaid, fraudulently enrolling them, and then billing for services that never take place. And the government pays it out, and that money disappears, never to be seen again. Now, one story I do have that I want to bring up, I just saw it and I thought it was really interesting, the story itself, but it also is another reason as to why these ICE operations need to take place, why these people that are here illegally need to be removed, because over the 4 years that Biden was in office, when there were over 20,000 or 200,000 people that came in, or no, it was 200. Shit, I've lost my numbers now. All the people that came through with Biden, no idea who they are, where they are, what they've done, what they've been involved in. And we wind up with this, an ATM jackpotting scheme with money funneled directly to Trinidad leadership. So what these guys were doing, there was basically a malware that they were going in and popping open these ATMs and either uploading it via USB drive, swapping out hard drives, whatever, getting this this malware in there that would then basically the ATM would spit all the money out, and then they've got it. So right here, according to court documents, the conspiracy relied on a variant of the Plotus malware, one of the most advanced families of ATM targeting software. The operation was not a simple smash and grab, as it involved a methodical 3-step technical execution. They would scout banks and credit unions, testing whether tampering the machine's hood or door would trigger a silent alarm. Once the target was deemed safe, they'd gain physical access, either replace internal hard drive or insert a thumb drive. Then the malware issued unauthorized commands to the ATM, forcing it to empty its currency into the hands of the mules waiting at the terminal. The malware was also designed to delete evidence of its presence, creating a false impression to mislead bank employees and prevent them from discovering what actually caused the breach. Many of the defendants charged in this Homeland Security Task Force operation are Venezuelan and Colombian nationals, including illegal alien Trinidad members. And so there was 56 have already been charged, and then this other was bringing another 31 into it. So 87 people as of right now are being charged with, in conjunction with this this effort. I would like to know how much money they think they received from this, but I don't remember. Yeah, it doesn't say here. I was curious as to how much money they think they pulled. But these are people here in our country running active operations to funnel money back to foreign gangs and cartel drug related entities, Trinidad being one of them. But that's it, guys. That's your world this week. I don't know. All we can do is keep doing our part. All we can do is encourage, get out there, vote, show support for what's going on. We do have a comment on YouTube. Dugganham Louis. So it's a civil war with blue cities. Remove all aid and it's on like Donkey Kong. Very predictable results. They burn the blue cities to the ground, and we've seen them do it. They did it all through George Floyd, and our Summer of Love is they burn the cities to the ground. And I really think what ICE needs to do when they're going in for operations, they need to have a water truck with them, and or like they have the Humvee with a 50 cal on the roof. It'll be a Humvee, but with a tank of water in the back and a huge ass super soaker on front of it. As cold as it is, people start getting rowdy. Hit them with the super soaker. They'll disperse pretty quick. They won't hang around too long in freezing weather with a soaked clothes. They'll be moving on along soon enough. But yeah, they need to do something with these cities. They need to pull back funds. They need to do something to leverage participation. I guess my thing is, I don't care if the local police are off doing their own thing while ICE is there. But whenever they are actively avoiding, calls for assistance because of these rioters or whatever, I'm sorry, you're the police officer in that city. That is your job. I'm not expecting them to be out there, chasing down people with ICE, but they do need to be there doing their job and keeping a handle and keeping a lid on this. And they do need to be participating with the detainers so that more of these taking these guys into ICE custody can be done in a secure, in a safe environment instead of being released out into the public to cause the trouble there. But thank you guys, Troy, Freedom. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming. Dugan, you're gonna be Duggan. I don't know. You guys. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us on YouTube. Matt should be here next week. We'll have another rocking show for you and give you your week again and in summary. But thank you everybody for showing up. We appreciate it, and take care. Be careful with the cold. And Freedom saying Minnesota used a long range acoustic device last night to disperse a crowd. Okay, fair enough. I still like the super soaker, but hey, we'll do whatever. All right, everyone, enjoy it. Those of you that are getting the freezing cold and aren't used to it, be careful out there, and we'll see you Tuesday.